as per always, I'll be leaving way later than I planned. I always underestimate the level of effort when I'm doing. That's a fair load on the M416 springs. That is all lumber. Kind of sneak underneath there a little bit. I don't know if it'll show up. You can kind of see how close I get to the bump stop sometimes when you drive here. There you go. Kind of see there. So these leaf springs are amazing. These trailers are amazing in terms of what they can really handle. But this is the first time driving up where Argo is going to be there, so I kind of interrupted myself there. It's okay to leave 2 or 3 in the afternoon because getting there in the dark doesn't matter. I just pull up the solar generator inside Argo. Our Antishanty RR-1 trailer is going to be fully charged and plenty of LED lighting to get me situated, and the bed's already there. I just have to throw out my sleeping bag and jump in. So this is the first trip with it as the established cabin in the woods. We'll see how it goes. So most of what I'm bringing, this is the way I kind of like to do things, is I can take our little trailer here and then I can use the M416 while I'm up there on our land, pulling it around with Theseus there, because it's just extremely convenient. Theseus is nice and narrow, can go down the trails. The M416 is very small, narrow, and capable. So I can haul wood to bring to the tractor and the wood chipper, so I can just throw the wood chips where I want them. This is really going to accelerate my ability to get things done. So again, it's a little different. When I get there, instead of having my old setup, the rooftop tent is going to stay here hanging from the ceiling. I won't need the Thule because again I'm just hauling the M416 empty. There's the ladder rack that normally goes in the back, and a lot of our camping gear and tools and things like that are just going to sit up here hanging. They don't have to come with me because I don't need all my specialized tools that I bring to set up and take down the rooftop tent on this T-slot aluminum frame. So we'll see how this goes. We're still working out what should go back and forth, what we should own 2 of, so that we'll have a sense of what should always be sitting in Argo. As I had alluded while narrating there in our driveway, it was no big deal that I left that late, because I could simply drive down onto our property in the Upper Peninsula, pull up to Argo, our Antishanty RR-1 adventure trailer, unlock the door, turn on the EcoFlow solar generator, turn on the lights, clean up, and go to bed. One interesting thing, I saw our good friend and neighbor Sandy a day or 2 later, and she explained to me that when I roll down into the forest property with Theseus's light bar shining brightly, it looks like an alien spaceship has landed in the forest. Apparently it makes quite a spectacle. Well, I slept in a bit, rolled out of bed about 7. And I would say once again, kind of a successful test of this concept. I probably sound a little rough. That's just from allergies and things kind of swelling up. Very, very damp here right now. But the general idea of using Argo, our RR-1 Antishanty, as a sort of cabin in the woods, I have to say so far so good. So I pulled in last night fairly late, not terribly late if memory serves, around 10 p.m. And really took me just no time at all to climb inside, get a few things squared away, grab a few things out of the truck, and hit the hay. Didn't fall asleep as quickly as I'd like, but I think that's because I got a little carried away with the caffeine. But this morning, just since I'm not super used to this setup, got to remember where I put things away last time. Set up the latrine, set up the shelter for the camp stove, get my breakfast and my coffee going, and hopefully today make some good progress on getting the trails reestablished and extended. Alright, so I've had my breakfast here, my first full day in the UP, arrived late last night. I got the extra stuff out of the M416 trailer. I think I've come up with a name for the trailer. Kathy always points out when they don't have names. I think its name is Beetle Bailey. Beetle for short. We'll see if that sticks. I am now going to drive down the trail with Theseus there and test this idea of using the scrap wood that was on our back deck, much of which came from that tower that I built for the pool slide. And I'm going to use that to try to hold down the timbers for the corduroys. So when I drive over them, they don't pop up individually. In a real corduroy road, you put a lot of stuff on top of the logs, and the logs themselves are much heavier than the little fence posts and landscape timbers that I'm using. So it's an experiment. I brought some wood when I brought Argo up here, and I brought pretty much the rest of it in Beetle Bailey here. We'll see how I do. I was here to show the beauty of a pintle hitch and an M416 trailer. So no, I wasn't actually thinking, oh, this will be an interesting picture. That's just where I happen to stop. And when I go down these trails with Beetle Bailey here, there's just nothing to worry about. If Theseus there can make it, the trailer can make it just as well. So I didn't bother filming it this time. When I take the first hill in, that spare tire just about touches the back of the truck. And you can see here, climbing a hill like this, sorry, a ton of mosquitoes around here, the trailer goes in the complete reverse direction, but again, pintle hitch and its suspension, it's absolutely not a problem. We'll see how it works. I used up the deck screws I had. I'm just going to take out the rest of the wood and unload it over there. Now I drove over this bit, and again, this is just kind of patching together the soft spots in the corduroy logs so I can put wood chip on top without the logs wiggling when you drive over it. So I just grabbed some of this old scrap lumber and patched it together over there. So now I'm just going to drive around the loop and then park. Shouldn't have any trouble. So Kathy and I one time in the winter camped like right here, which with snow and ice was fine. I do still have some video getting stuck there. That's how I found out the first transfer case had gone bad. Got myself out, I think, with the winch. The challenge we had, though, is just uneven. So part of me is, well, build a wooden platform wherever you're going to camp so you have a nice level place to cook your meals and things like that, which I might still do. But the other thing I've been doing as I clear the trails is just take my wood chipper out and just throw wood chip on top of the corduroy. And that does, as long as the corduroy doesn't bounce up and down, it does make for a nice, smooth walking trail. Like all this area here, I can just walk along and feel perfectly comfortable. It's even kind of cushy. This front corner is where I think I did the most just raw mulch. There's not much of any corduroy underneath it, but it didn't really need it. It wasn't that boggy. No weeds have grown up through it for the last 2 years, but this is just a bunch of mulch. So as I fill in this area with mulch, it'll be a nice, comfortable place to walk. I don't know. the advantage of front and rear lockers. I had the rear locker after I had a little trouble navigating the corner, and then I put on the front locker here. Still had to back up and hit it one more time. So definitely having this wood down here has helped. This was the problem before. I would slip off the logs and then just lose all traction. So you can see it's very wet and mucky in here. So while that was not without drama, it was acceptable to me, especially when it's had a lot of rain here lately. So you can see the other reason why I need corduroy. It's really soft bog when the water percolates up. And you can see there, same thing. These landscape timbers kind of got pushed out of the way to make this work. I'm going to need a bunch more corduroy in here. There is a lot of site prep to do on these boggy bits. That one actually worked out okay, but I will be wanting to come back out here with the chainsaw, and this time all I want to do on this trip, I'm not going to probably run the tractor in the wood chipper or anything. I'm just going to on foot go as far as I can west and try and start getting the trail to the lake better established. Puffing around down there. One of the challenges of trying to drop a tree in a crowded forest is many times it doesn't fall, it just lands on the other trees. And when you have no kind of footing at all, like this boggy stuff, can be really dangerous, because if it moves, you're not going to change your direction fast. So that's the long and the short of that. I've ended up not being discouraged after all, because with relatively little effort, I was able to clear enough brush and drop enough trees to open up my long overdue, just get a good start on my long overdue path to the lake. Finally come up with names for the trailers. Kathy kept getting confused which trailer I was talking about, and we always name the vehicles, so I figured, fine. The M416 is Beetle Bailey, and the M105A2, which is a much larger trailer, used to pull behind Deuce and a Halfs. That'll be named Sarge. Also managed to pop the trash roo back on this morning. Always good to have that when I'm hauling out the trash from camp. Learned a lot with Argo with power balance. So it's 1,024 watt hours, a little less than 100 amp hours in the EcoFlow Delta 3 with 200 watts of solar. Now with just occasional clouds blowing through like this, and because I want to be in a sheltered spot, which means I don't get any direct sun until about midday, late morning, midday, and then it'll last a couple of few hours. But because it even that way is south, so these trees are kind of too far away. Those trees wouldn't shade it because the sun's always in the southern sky. But nevertheless, just running the fridge, it's holding at about 40 to 50%. When it was 96% when I came in and turned on the fridge. So like I told Kathy, I think we'll either get in the habit of taking the EcoFlow with us, although again that wouldn't have helped, but in winter I think we'll have to take the EcoFlow with us just to protect it from cold weather damage, so that when we come up here in winter and there's very little sun in the sky, we can run the heater the whole time. And then presumably when we're done camping up here, we'll take the 2 batteries back home with us and charge them up. Otherwise, logistically, camp's working fine. The only real limit is me just being tired and muscle sore. So just a lot of physical activity, even with Argo here taking away, my gosh, how much work I used to do. I used to pull up here and take me an hour or 2 to get the rooftop tent set up and the camp set up, which was very physically demanding. And then I don't sleep as well, because if the wind blows, the canvas flaps if you get caught in the rain. So last night it had rained pretty hard, but of course with Argo, who cares? So I flew the drone earlier today and had to laugh at myself because I don't have the greatest depth perception, and right there above Argo, that mostly dead pine tree with the bird jumping around there, I just tried to back it up a little bit, and I didn't realize I was already into the tree, so it slammed in the tree, hit every branch on the way down. I thought, oh no, so I went and picked it up, and it was virtually undamaged. I didn't even break the blades. Picked it up, flew it some more. But again, with my usual clumsiness, I'm a very inept drone pilot. So I tried to use the camera and the map, So we just tried to kind of fly it down the trail and then go up and then kind of go over the clearing. And by the time I looked at the map, somehow I had wandered way over to the west. So then I just angled back and flew back this way. There's one challenge, and I always want you never to fly the drone outside of line of sight. Well, if you truly do that, they're pretty useless. But over here in the forest, when I'm trying to scout ahead of me, where obviously I can't see the drone, if I could see the drone, I wouldn't have needed it. You can't get too far before it will lose the signal. And if it tries to fly back home, I don't know. Fortunately, I haven't had to find out the hard way if it would lower its altitude and come crashing into these trees, which would make it very difficult to find. But, well, that's about it for now. Again, it's this first day when it hasn't rained. As you can see, the soil is very soft and wet, so I really just kind of did a few odd jobs, hung around camp and rested today. And that's what I'm about to do now. What I'm about to do now is just drive down to the lighthouse and remind myself that it's not all work up here, that there are just so many beautiful things to see up here in this area of the UP. So I try to balance making progress on my path to the lake and getting all of our recreational stuff up here, doing all that work with enjoying these in-between trips so that I don't get burned out and stop loving the time that I spend up here. One of the aspects Kathy and I have been trying to develop. It's like, well, why would I invest time and effort trying to get this place sorted out? And this lovely picture of Kathy sitting on a rock in a mountain slope in Death Valley with her prayer book in her hands, just calmly reading and reflecting. And it struck me that I'm so in the habit of busying myself that I'm kind of missing the whole point myself. Like, why don't I just sit down and relax? So reflecting on that, I think I will sit on this rock, have a nice breeze in my face, and do Liturgy of the Hours evening prayer. So this is toward the northern boundary of our parcel. So strictly speaking, when the day comes and we decide to establish a place. Now this is where I kind of just cut a little turnaround loop. It didn't take me that long. It was difficult at the time, mostly because I was unsure of what I wanted to do. Plus it was in the winter. But it's just a spot, and I'll walk that in a minute. There's a pretty good clearing just inside of it, which is where I think Argo will ultimately make his home. Down there a ways, someone's got a dock. And if memory serves, there's some decent clear areas here to the south as well. So I'll just kind of poke my head in here. We've hiked this a number of times. Now it ends up looking awful, but that's just because the wind has downed so many trees. So you can kind of see it would be relatively short work to clear all that out and establish a little clearing in there. It's really just kind of chainsaw work and hauling. So that's one of the kind of clearing areas that wouldn't be too bad. And judging by the lack of dead pines, reasonably, well, I take that back, right? So there's a couple there. So the one challenge is it this way because it gets boggy and the trees die back and grow back. So there's a couple of tall dead trees and a lot of young trees there. That could be an indication that that would be a spot that would require some fill if we were to make that Argo's lakeshore home. Again, wherever we do it, there's this nice strip of cedars right along the lakeshore that really do knock down the wind very nicely. You can actually see a yellow birch has dropped over there too. There's a monster tree right there. Oh no, it's just a clump of cedars. Okay. Try not to kill myself here. So I've hiked this once or twice before where you kind of just, poor guys all run, where you just kind of walk in this sort of lane among the cedars by the lakefront. As you walk through here, you appreciate the prize at the end where I'm trying to get from the other end of the property and kind of head to this direction. So here again, just a bunch of downed trees that can be fairly easily cleared. You can see a bunch of the stuff right over there is where I was cutting. You can see where I stacked some logs in there. So I kind of joking with Fred, he's like, just rent a bulldozer, make short work of it. This is some brush and whatnot that I piled here a couple of years ago. And I was just kind of making this little entrance here. So when I walked with Kathy, and where I think we would start, is just the north end of those downed trees. So I noticed right where I kind of made the loop to come back out, and it occurred to me, oh, if I just go a short distance in, there's some fairly high ground. Right there. And it looks to me like that was cleared at least once before. And there are a lot of downed trees in there. But again, here, the ground's a bit higher. Let's see, it's just covered in the common sarsaparilla. Birch isn't rotten yet. So if I just took out a few of these cedars, got rid of the logs, right on the other side of my little loop there, there is a very, very nice high ground, dry, clear area in there. So that's what I think I'm going to do at the end of the trail, regardless of how I get here. You see me just doing a lot of cutting, harvesting logs. Most of it's already down, wood chipping the brush, and just kind of gradually creating this as the spot near the lakeshore that makes it all worthwhile. Alright, that could have been a whole lot worse. At one point I stood behind a tree, realizing that was the only safe place, dropping a fairly large, very bent cedar, so there's no way to guess which way it was going to go. And I thought of everything except the most classic failure, getting my bar bound up in it. So So I gotta hand it to Echo. That bar is something else, because man, that tree pinched it and twisted it and got the chainsaw wedged against a part that wasn't falling, and thunk thunk, finally it fell and I pulled it out. And the only damage was the chain was bent, which can probably easily be repaired when I go to sharpen it. So I got off easy there. Unfortunately, I was being careful to steer clear. So the sun's been out a couple of days. It's dried things up a bit, and you can better see my trail just from the crushed grass where I've been driving. So again, starting a few years ago, this is where I imagined setting up a little camp, and where I still might build the shed, but you can see it's going to take a lot of fill so that it doesn't just all sink in the bog like the old Monty Python bit. And then we built a third castle. It burned down, fell over, and sank in the swamp. So that's when I made this clearing. That little stump I'll always remember is the tree that surprised me by popping up as I was cutting it. It had blown over. And that was the other one that taught me how shallow rooted much of the trees here are, and why you really have to be careful. You can't just count on regular widowmakers that are obvious to see. That was a perfectly healthy tree, and it blew over and landed right about where I would have been camping. Alright, so that's how far I got. So that's not too bad. It's only a total of maybe 4 hours, maybe 5 hours of chainsaw work, a lot of which is spent just, trimming off the logs from the trees that fall. Most of the trees I took out are dead. I did have to take out, I think the count on this trail is now up to like 3 live red cedars. But those of you familiar with forests in this area, it's almost like weeding the lawn. I do love the red cedars, and I hope to do a lot of things with them. But as you can tell, they grow like weeds and form a very thick forest. So again, that made it look from before it was a little less good than it is. That's just all the branches in the last cedar I dropped. I think that was the one that bit the bar. So I was debating, and you always debate in something like this. Do I go this way? Do I go this way, just around this big tree, and continue this way, just because that looks worse than it is? That's just a bunch of stuff that's dead on the ground. Or do I go around this way, take out 1 or 2 more decent sized trees, and kind of loop around? So by the time I was done today, I thought straight down the middle here is the next bit of chainsaw work to do, and then figure out the next bit of meander after that. So first I'll just keep coming out here with the chainsaws until I have a walking trail, and then once I have a walking trail, I can decide whether to widen it to make it so I can drive from one end of the property to the other. Alright, it's Saturday morning, tearing down camp. So it really doesn't, with Argo everything is so much faster. You can just kind of throw it in storage and this and that. A very good week. The only downside to this week, really, got a tremendous amount done. I think we made a plan to put in the road and get the barn built, which will then allow us to recreate here and not just work on amateur logging. But if there was a downside, it was just really humid this week. So again, it's the second week in August. Probably doesn't sound shocking to people, but the weather in the UP is very unpredictable, and on this peninsula especially unpredictable, because as Sandy points out, we are in the lake. We're on a little peninsula in between Little Bay de Noc and Big Bay de Noc. So whatever weather forms on the lake, it includes us in it. But nevertheless, very successful trip. Like I say, I want to come to the UP as sort of a spiritual retreat, and a lot of the time I've spent here, my mind has just been so busy. Another reason why I really want to get the road and the barn put in, so I can start working more on the spiritual reflection part and less on the, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time, I've got to hurry up and fire up the chainsaws part. Alright, well, it's Saturday morning. We drove up last night. It's an example of the bit of road noise in this spot here right up by the county road. I just now popped up the canopy. So for the first time, well, lots of firsts here. Kathy is with me here in the UP. Sparky is what we drove up. Argo we leave up here. There's Kathy making the coffee. So what do you think of the Wallace stove?
I learn how to use it, it'll be great. I'm pretty sure.
I thought the big one was hot, and this one is the warming.
Yeah, that's what it is right now.
Yeah, okay. So you're boiling the water on there. We'll see how long it takes. One thing I saw with the Walla stove is like 150, 170 watts while it was running. So again, one thing I think is clear is we're going to have to augment the amount of battery in Argo here so that we can run a fan or run the Wallace heater or whatever without worrying about running out of juice while we're here. So here again you can kind of see the sun's been up for a while. It's got to be, well, I actually got my phone here. I think it's 11, quarter to 11. So the sun's fairly high in the sky, but because of this location we don't get direct sun on the roof solar panels until better part of noon this time of year, and then you only get it for a few hours before it sets over there. So we definitely, typically when I've been up here, even being careful, I use more amp hours than I store. So one is we need to supplement the solar, but more importantly just need a bigger reserve, especially in the winter when we'll be running the Wallace heater. Well, it's Sunday afternoon, productive morning, and then we went to church. A very nice visit with Sandy yesterday. Showed her the beach, met with Joe Zentara, kind of discussed with him plans for the road and the barn. Kathy is unsuccessfully searching for a pair of gloves. Took our portable fire pit out and have a little trouble with that. It doesn't want, one leg is not sliding in and out, so I'm not sure what happened to it. Probably got bent or something at some point. So we've been going to spend some time today trying to figure out how to bring order to the chaos. So this is why these Antishanty bed systems are very handy. So as we stop putting so much junk in the trailer when we come here, the idea is to keep it all up in these. Then you can make this into a picnic table, a workbench. I use the gaming chair to provide me back support when I'm sitting there. But again, it's mostly going to be a question of us taking less clutter in here with us. So in the morning when we take down our bed, we'll have a place to sit, because this works great. But if we're rainy or otherwise miserable and we get to hide inside Argo, we wouldn't want to be all squished in there. Otherwise, a nice and unremarkable, relaxing Sunday afternoon. Oh, and I did hike back to the south property boundary, looked on Gaia GPS at some of my old bits of walkabout, and I finally remembered to log on Gaia GPS where the trail I've made so far ends, and actually got quite a bit farther than I remembered, so that was nice. And up in this tree is a very angry, skinny little squirrel. Keeps throwing tree junk down and chattering at us. Seems very upset that we're out here in his forest. Sparky's done very well. So pretty much most of what I do with Theseus, our Hummer H3, I can do with Sparky. So that's been pleasant. Needs a set of tires this fall before the snow hits, but yeah, so we didn't pull Argo up with Sparky. We leave it parked here on the land. Sparky can pull it, but Sparky does not have a trailer brake controller. So one of these days we'll get that sorted. If you would, and maybe get us going down the little dealie. I'll put on your special Sparky thing here.
Okay, happy Labor Day. We are leaving. We had a very nice talk with Sandy. There's their old campsite. And to the right here is the mud hole.
Got a mosquito.
And my ears.
So I don't know if you want to catch.
I didn't know we were going down here.
You weren't listening.
Well,
that's the way we're going out.
Okay.
So can you, in addition to that, maybe once or twice you might get a kick out of catching the peak that it shows us here. I do get a kick out of taking this way. What did you say, 22 or 23, I think, is going up the highest you saw it record? Huh? 22. Yeah. 24. That's the springs flexing too. Yeah, 23. 22. So when it's not bouncing, about 20 maybe. Yeah, definitely fun.
Oh, there's the Antishanty RR-1.
Much better view. Might get a couple of mosquitoes. You get a much better view. So I'm curious too, just how off camber that one stretch is. I set this part up as you drive straight at the tree and then turn at the last minute. It's interesting to me how frequently the wind breaks down the trees along here. Strong climb up that little sandbar. When we
Okay.
turn left is when it really gets interesting. I don't think this will get up to like 23 like the other one does.
10, 11.
Yeah. So you don't really realize, because here you're in the woods, it feels different, but there, it's like that's a serious little hill that we climb.
Now, here's the roll.
It's the next one where you really get the off camber. Off these logs, and I go 12, 13. Trying to make sure your luggage rack bars don't hit the tree.
I appreciate that, dear.
So that was the most we saw there, right? It was 13. I think that's as extreme as that gets. There's one spot up ahead where it gets a little tipsy again. How many years have we owned Sparky? And I'm just now getting sufficiently comfortable with all his features to remember to turn something like that on. That's the problem with lots of off-road features is when you're in the moment, half the time you don't even remember to use them.
Is that a trunk in the middle there?
The stump?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's mostly me being lazy. The wear on your chainsaw chain is like 30 times more when you level the stump than it is when you drop the tree. So that's just one that I've never remembered to come back and take a fresh chain and take it down to the nub. I like not taking out the stumps because they kind of hold the soil together. And with a 4x4, it's not that big a deal if I do drive over them.
Okay, now here we go. Down.
Yeah, and this is where you'll get some interesting roll right here as well. I did take a shovel and dig this sandbar a little bit. It used to bug me, but I guess it's not that bad. There you go, 11 degrees. It's somewhere back there. So there we go. Now I try to take this wide to straddle that stump. Not the big one, the little one, but it doesn't really. That's why we have steel bumpers and skid plates. That's why I was doing the deck screws in the corduroy. Occasionally, I can't predict when that's going to happen, but if I put a board across them and screw them together, it doesn't happen. Although, as I learned, the deck boards will just snap if there's not enough of them held together. Alright, so I won't go that way because that gets a little dicey. Sparky didn't have no trouble with it. It's just not something you do on your way out. We'll get a nice
Goodbye,
picture
Blue
of
Loop.
Sparky. Yeah, Blue Loop. The trail cam will have a very lovely picture of Sparky going through this tight, what are we at, 11 degree roll and 11 degree pitch. That used to be a lot worse. I built a pile of wood chips on the passenger side. That was the other place where you really felt like you were dipping to one side.
This is the place where I'm very familiar. I mean, we've been here so often. This is the beginning of Sandy's access to her triangle. This is the road. So as we go up, you can see that we leave that meadow. Would you call it a meadow? But
Yeah, a little clearing. These little trees I think Joe's going to have to take out for the cement trucks to make it down here because you don't want to take out this nice beautiful tree on the driver's side there.
we might have to take that one out. You never know.
this in the winter with tractor smurf, and I was lucky there were ruts that guided me like rails. Otherwise, I would have just slid off into the woods there. But most of these are scraggly little pines that are going to die soon anyway.
Yeah, it only ever got up to 9 on the roll and 11 on the pitch.
It'll go maybe a little higher as we climb. This is where they'll have to put some gravel as well, where you first come down. You're right though, didn't even get a sign. Yeah, 10 degrees. Okay. Off to two-wheel drive. I'm recording this video only a couple of days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And for those who are unfamiliar, one of his primary beliefs was that dialogue could lead people who are at loggerheads culturally, philosophically, theologically to a deeper and greater truth. And tragically, his life was ended at the young age of 31 years. Even prior to those events, Kathy and I had anticipated our land featuring prominently in one of two ministries that we wish to undertake. The one more related to Charlie Kirk's work is trying to recreate a middle school or high school forensic society. Forensics not being Abby Shudo and finding evidence, but logic and structured argument. Hopefully teaching young people the use of logic and structured argument in dialogue to arrive at truth versus yelling at each other and engaging in violence. The other ministry that will more closely relate to the use of this land is trying to get young people and families that are having trouble communicating to quote unquote touch the grass, to unplug, get away from the World Wide Web and all the toxic content of social media, and rediscover how to speak to one another. So Kathy and I are praying and discerning as we invest to complete our road to the lake and our barn down by the lake shore, and hoping that we can bring those ministries more to fruition using this land and those investments.